If I'd said that I had warm, nostalgic memories of the Garbage Pail Kids movie from my own childhood, that would make me a pathological liar. Even the cards were a bit before my time. They were sort of the gross version of the Cabbage Patch Kids, with a number of disgusting, strangely deformed characters with a dark sense of humor. Honestly, I probably would have loved to have these as a kid, but I never learned about the Garbage Pail Kids until much later in my life. They're actually still being made today, crazily enough. The popularity of the cards went on to spawn a cartoon series that didn't air until much later than intended due to parental concerns, and this movie, which is hailed today as one of the worst films of all time by critics and audiences alike. Is that really fair though? With a budget of $1 million and a box office gross of 1.5, it wasn't really a commercial failure. But then again, being profitable does not necessarily a good movie make. Let's take a bit of a closer look and see just what's hiding under that lid. You see, because it's like I'm comparing the DVD case to a garbage can. It's funny, right? First things first though, DVD features. We have mono audio only. And for bonus features, there's a trailer, and that's it. That's actually kind of disappointing because a commentary track for a movie like this would have actually been pretty fascinating to say the least. And it would be nice to know just what went on behind the scenes here. Our protagonist is a boy named Dodger who claims to be a teenager.
I'm 14. I'm almost 15.
But looks and acts about 11 years old. It's never explained too well, but we're led to believe that Dodger is an orphan and our other lead, a pretentious junk store owner / magician named Captain Manzini, is his guardian.
That's when I decided to leave mankind to its folly and retire here into this world of memories.
I guess that explains a lot, doesn't it? Dodger is bullied relentlessly by a group of much older-looking thugs, the leader of which is named Juice. Probably because Juice's girlfriend, Tangerine, has a bit of what they call a Shota complex, and Dodger is happy to indulge her in those illegal fantasies. This movie is looking good already. After a ridiculous fight scene, if you can even call it that, Dodger is left for dead in a sewer because our villains are Karate Kid level psychopaths that don't seem to have a problem beating up a child much smaller than them.
See you later, creep.
This is part of what I think the real message of the movie is, but more on that later. He's saved by the Garbage Pail Kids, who are portrayed by real dwarf actors in some pretty horrifying costumes.
This'll make him wake up!
What are you?
Same to you, buddy.
Aside from that one question, he doesn't really seem to have many hang-ups about who or what they really are. I think I wouldn't either, to be fair. I'd just assume that I was dead and in hell, because it already looks pretty much the way the world does to me now, so. Our cast includes Wendy Winston, Valerie Vomit, Nat Nerd, Messy Tessie, Foul Phil, Alligator, and my personal favorite, Greaser Greg. Greg and Nat are voiced by Jim Cummings, interestingly enough. So if you've ever wanted to hear Pete or Tigger casually talk about stabbing someone with a switchblade, then this is the movie for you. The group each have their gimmick that makes up their admittedly two-dimensional personalities. Ollie likes to eat body parts, particularly toes. Winston farts. Valerie vomits, kind of. Tessie has a runny nose. Phil, I guess, has bad breath, but they don't really do much with that. He seems to have been abandoned by his parents as an infant though, so that's funny at least. Greg says "ay" and has an accent, and he's a greaser, which is why he's my favorite. And Nat wets his pants, because I guess nerds do that or something. Fucking I don't know. The basic gist of the movie is that the Garbage Pail Kids came from outer space, got trapped in a garbage pail at some point by Manzini, and got broken out during the fight in his junk store. Manzini is trying to find a magic spell to put them back in the pail, and Dodger is trying to impress Tangerine by making clothes for her, because she's some kind of fashion designer. And the Garbage Pail Kids themselves are looking for the rest of their friends, and the kids happen to know how to make clothes for reasons unexplained. There's a lot going on for a kids film that should be a simple vehicle for cheap, gross-out humor, and that's where part of the movie's problems stem from, I think. There's so many different plot points being juggled here that it doesn't really seem to know what it wants to do with itself. The plot with Juice, Tangerine, and this whole clothes-making scheme just doesn't really feel like it fits with a story about a bunch of disgusting, ugly children who are named after bodily excretions. It would have been much more enjoyable had it focused more on the kids themselves. There are some kind of long stretches where nothing of consequence happens, particularly any scene with just Dodger and Tangerine. I find these scenes, ironically enough, to be more creepy or gross than any of the Garbage Pail Kids themselves, for a number of reasons. While Katie Barbary and Mackenzie Aston are really only 1 year apart in terms of age, they look like they have a much larger disparity between them in this movie. That and the weird implications of Tangerine using Dodger, and Dodger in turn using the Garbage Pail Kids for cheap slave labor to make them clothes, just leaves a bizarre feeling that something about these characters just isn't right. But I think that may have been the point. The Garbage Pail Kids themselves aren't exactly role models either, though. They break into song with absolutely no warning at one point, as if you're being punched in the face literally by the musical number itself.
Bring me back something rare.
What?
Anything, long as it's blood rare.
Why should we do something nice? Let's quit now, that's my advice. I ain't gonna work for free. Tell me what's in this for me.
They then proceed to steal sewing equipment from a nearby non-union sweatshop that has a help wanted sign on the front door. Well, okay, maybe they are good role models. I actually love that scene. That somewhat dark, cynical moment of showing a straight-up sweatshop right in the middle of the city is wonderful. And the song is terrible, but catchy in its own way. It's even made it onto a popular web series I follow.
See? We can do anything by working with each other.
Just shut the f*** up, Kakarot.
There's no more other songs in the movie either, so it comes across as even more strange by the time it's all over. Later, you see them sneak into a movie theater, steal a truck, crush someone's car, steal people's food, start a fight at a bar, beat people up, threaten them with knives, and get drunk. Manzini even tries to give Ali an intervention or something, saying that he has to set an example for the rest of the kids because he's
The natural leader of the children. The natural leader of the children.
The movie takes another weird turn when it's revealed that the Garbage Pail Kids' friends, who we never see, were taken to what's referred to as the State Home for the Ugly, where ugly people are rounded up by a secret police force and locked away in a comical jail to be executed. And I'm not using dark hyperbole for comedic effect here either. They actually do say this.
They'll be gone soon.
On where?
And Manzini casually mentions this little tidbit later on to back that up.
Captain, what about all the other children?
Yes. Remember the garbage truck? We were too late. Just go and check that everybody's out safely.
Okay.
All while We Can Do Anything's instrumental plays in the background. Nothing says cheerful music like having your friends all die by getting put through a trash compactor. They don't even tell the kids about it either. Oh, is that a spoiler? Whoops. Spoilers ahead and behind. After Dodger finally decides to show a bit of gratitude to the kids after stealing the credit for them making their clothes, and admitting to Tangerine that it was all thanks to them, she seems less than pleased. Enough to warrant calling the state home to take them all away on the night of the big fashion show even. They break out of prison with some help from the biker gang seen earlier, who I should mention decided to give free drinks to everyone in the bar, including the kids, after Ollie ate a guy's toe and Winston broke through their window and started hitting people. One of the bikers really liked Alligator too, as we can see here. They then decide to get some revenge on Juice, Tangerine, and whatever the other two gang members' names are supposed to be because I'm a thorough reviewer. After crashing the fashion show, the kids initiate a bizarre fight with the gang members. Valerie even gets punched right in the stomach by one of them, which leads to the one scene where she actually vomits in the entire film, with sort of a weird special effect at that. Dodger and Juice fight. Juice punches him. Winston gives him moral support, and then Dodger punches Juice, only to have Manzini take him away while Dodger starts crying. I could see some people calling him a wuss or something like that, but I don't know. If I was 12 years old and had some grown man beating me up, I'd probably be doing the same. Also, the fact he probably realizes he was being used by Tangerine the whole time, realizing he has no parents, realizing he was taking advantage of the Garbage Pail Kids. Yeah, I'd say he's got a lot to be upset about. The only thing I would have changed about this scene would be to have Greg come up and stab Juice in the throat while he's down. After everything else in the movie, I don't think it would really be that out of place. Then, and I have to stress, without telling the Garbage Pail Kids that their lost friends were all killed at the state home for the ugly, Manzini tries to use his magic spell to send the kids back into the pail.
Now's our chance, guys. Let's go, let's go.
The spell being a song that would be impossible for him to play backwards in that way, and is an obvious audio effect. But hey, who am I to judge? Like most other plot points in this movie, it doesn't work, and the Garbage Pail Kids just run off when he has his eyes closed. Dodger's lost the will to care anymore and doesn't bother telling Manzini. I think he just hopes for the kids to wreak as much havoc as they can on the world he's steadily grown to despise. Many years later, Dodger dyed his hair black, put on a trench coat, and is set to star in his very own video game slated for release sometime this year. Some have criticized this movie for not really having a real target audience, and I kinda see that really. It's a little too slow moving for young children. Older kids would probably be at the age where it just isn't funny to them, and it's not really a movie for most adult audiences either, despite having some disturbing sexual jokes and comments.
Wait, stop! Cut that out!
But I haven't finished the examination.
I think nowadays it's found its audience in a cult following as a so bad it's good movie. It isn't as entertaining as something like The Room or Street Trash, which is amazing, I should note. But it did present me with one of my favorite words of all time.
Normies, they're normal people.
We got to hide from them.
They hate us.
Yeah, they think we're ugly.
The movie has some slow stretches, but it has just enough baffling moments that keep you asking what and why to keep you watching. There's a scene where Tangerine takes Dodger to peddle her clothes, for example. It goes from day to night in one cut, all while she answers a question he asked just seconds before in the daylight scene.
So what do we do when we get there?
What do you mean? Like, how do you sell the clothes?
Yeah.
Or this image out of my nightmares where the Garbage Pail Kids and Manzini are all watching Dodger take a bath in the center of the room. Still think I'm crazy for making the trailer look like a horror film? I wasn't far off, was I? I have to give this movie praise for one thing though especially. It has a core message all throughout that taught me, or rather reinforced, my personal philosophy on the world in general. A good chunk of people are thoughtless dicks and shouldn't be trusted, no matter what they look like. Juice and his gang constantly beat up a much younger kid for no apparent reason, steal from him, treat Tangerine terribly, and have apparently killed someone for telling the police about their shenanigans. Tangerine manipulates Dodger and has the Garbage Pail Kids locked up for the crime of being ugly in her presence, even though she kinda needs them around if she wants to keep making the amazing clothes. Dodger forces the Garbage Pail Kids to slave away so he can score with Tangerine, without really doing much of anything for them in return. He's not really much of a friend to them in the slightest, aside from making a vague promise to help get their friends out of the state home, which he doesn't do. He also has some kind of ridiculous high standards considering he insists on going for Tangerine the whole time, rather than someone more his own age. His comeback to her at the end is this.
I don't think you're pretty anymore.
I know it's supposed to be symbolic or whatever that beauty isn't skin deep to him, but it implies that it was the entire time before. Also, he turns down Valerie earlier in the film.
Wanna suck face? No. Well, I mean, no, I already like somebody.
The Garbage Pail Kids themselves are a bunch of violent thieves, cannibals, and who knows what else. Manzini probably has some sort of illegal drug operation, or maybe he owns the non-union sweatshop considering how close it was to the store, and how he never had a single customer the entire film, but can still afford to keep his shop up and running. There's a state home for the ugly that kills people not only for being unattractive, but for being too weird and too crippled. This guy in the audience at the fashion show feels the need to point out that the kids are ugly.
Hey, those little creeps are sure ugly.
Thanks for that. Everyone here is a dick. There are no heroes. That's life. It's definitely not an uplifting movie, but it's an educational one. Just because you're good looking doesn't mean you're a good person, of course. That should be a given, and many other films, books, and media teach that. But not as many dare to admit the cold hard truth. That if you're ugly, well, there's still a good chance you're an asshole.
If your teacher says you're bad and sends you to the principal, you can be a garbage pail kid. If your parents say you dress like you should be in a carnival, you can be a garbage pail kid. It's international, radical, how anything unusual ends up like a garbage pail kid. You think you're all so great and all so cute, but you don't understand if they try to persecute. But here's a pail and here's a lid. You can be a garbage pail kid. Oh, you can be a garbage pail kid.
Gee, I thought it was funny.